Okay, so I'm brand new at making videos, and I figured the best place to start is at the beginning to show you how and what I do in order to make the sculpted petals for the wreaths I've been doing. So the very beginning process is cutting the burlap, and the burlap that I'm using is poly burlap mesh that you can buy online. I'm fortunate enough that I can just buy this locally. So to make or to prepare it for a wreath, you also need to have some way in cutting your mesh. I happen to have a bag sealer that I purchased from Amazon, and also a roll holder that my husband built me. Just very simplistic, but it does the job. And also I have a smaller mat that I use to measure out the size I need, a 10 by 10 inch piece. You want to wear a mask for the fumes. There aren't a lot of fumes, but just for safety, you want to use a mask. And I mean, this is an N95. I'm not sure if you're able to get those still, but that's what I use. And one other thing that you will need, well, two actually, is that when we're done cutting them, I always spray them, spray the edges. Actually, I spray the whole thing so that it has less fraying. And this is Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch 2 times Ultra Cover Clear, because it has a UV resistant protection. So it also helps with fading. So you're going to need a can of that, and it doesn't matter if it's matte, satin, gloss. I don't really think it matters, so whatever you can get. Another item that I use while I'm cutting is just a throwaway piece of mesh. And the reason I always have that handy is when you're using the bag sealer to cut, it actually is melting. And sometimes the blade will get it, or this underneath piece will get some leftover residue. And I just use this to actually clean it off, to wipe it. Up here I just use my finger now to tear it off. Okay? So my sealer is plugged in, and let's see, yes, turned on. I use this littler mat, and I usually will set it on 3 inches. And the reason that I do that is when I pull it through, I can measure that exact 10-inch size. All right, so I've loaded a roll on my holder. I've pulled it through. It doesn't have to be an exact, but it's pretty close to that 10-inch. And all I'm going to do is just press down, hold it, and I usually count a few seconds. It'll go off. I'm going to do a second one because I'm just starting it and it's just heating up. So there's 2, and I'm going to give it a third time. There's my third one, and it's cut. It does a pretty good job, and it's pretty quick. I'm just going to lay that over to the side and continue to cut. So I'm going to pull it through, press, wait for that click, lift up, and pull it off. And lay it off to the side. And pretty much, once you get into a rhythm, it goes pretty quickly. Line it up to my 10-inch. So now it's pretty warm that it's able to just do it on one press. So you can already start to see there's a little bit of buildup, and I'm just going to take that excess piece, rub it over the top to remove that buildup. Take my fingernail, this top part isn't hot, and just pull that excess off of there. And then I can go right back and cut. You can do, or it does a whole roll pretty quickly once you get into a rhythm. This was about a half a roll. I had already cut some this morning. And I'm going to show you what happens when you get to the end. The further down the roll you go, the curlier, obviously, your piece is going to be. And that's fine. I just pile them up. I'm going to show you how to get them flat here in a minute. So I've come to the end. Sometimes you'll be able to get an extra piece off of that, sometimes not. Now this one is too short. So what I do is I'm just going to save it so that I can use that again as a scratchy to clean that excess off of the bar. And then take my nail and rub that melted portion off. Okay? Makes a little bit of a mess, but it's fine. Okay, so now that you know, you can also do this with a wood burning tool. I just had already purchased this, and I have a wood burning tool, but it seems a little awkward to me compared to using this bag sealer from Amazon, so that's just what I stick with. I'm going to move this stuff off to the side here and show you. This just has a cotter pin on the end of it that I can take the roll off, set it back on, and add the next roll when I'm ready. The next step that I typically do is I have a I guess it's called a fluffing box that my husband built me when I purchased a bow maker. So it's just a square box, and inside the box it's really, really heavy. He has heavy blocks of wood or whatever in there. So I typically will use that to flatten all of my burlap. And what I do is I'm just going to flatten it out as much as I can on the edges and the curly parts. Pull it all flat. And I literally just set this box on top. And usually I'll have 2 full rolls under there. Do you need to have this box? Absolutely not. If you have some heavy books, I also have some heavy metal plates that my husband cut for me. I just set something on top of it to get it flat. And generally, I try to leave it a few hours, if not even overnight, because the flatter it is, the easier it is to work with. So if you have a handyman that can build you one, or just find yourself some really bigger, heavier books to set on it, just to get it flattened out. This pile is generally what it looks like when it's flattened, so it's pretty good. It's not completely flat, but it's pretty good. And the next step would be to take my clear and head outside. And what I would do, I'm not going to do it here because I'm in my kitchen, obviously, and I don't want to take my camera outside, but I'll just go outside and I literally hold it with one hand, spray the front as much as I can get, flip it over, spray the back, and spray the edges. Okay? And then what I typically do is I'll come in and take my hair dryer that I have for crafting and just give it a quick blow with the hair dryer to dry that completely. And then you're pretty much ready to go to make your wreath. So I hope this was helpful. Is that the only way to do it? No, it just happens to be the way that I do it. So if you found this helpful, give me a like. Thank you.